it wrong place, aren't I? There we go. Let's make myself big. I did it all wrong again. Hey up, it's that old Yorkshire geek here, back again with some more geeky news. Me review of Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 4, The Watcher went up yesterday, so you can find that on my YouTube channel. I've also put it on Twitch as well. It's, it's not as good on Twitch, but, it's the same video, but I just streamed it onto Twitch. And I'm just getting to grips with that. But that's up anyway. You can watch that if you want. You can get my find out my opinion on that episode, which isn't very good. Right, so we've got some news to get through tonight. So I will make myself small again, make myself big just for that. Don't know why. Could have just left myself there, couldn't I? Never mind. There we go. Anyway, first up, before we get on to the articles, I saw the first episode of the Halo series today. I'm not going to do a full review like I've done with Picard, because it's not that good. I saw the first episode, and it was basically an hour of I didn't really like it. The special effects looked unfinished to me. They look very gamey. I know it's based on a game, but you don't want the special effects to look like they're in a game, do they? Even the live action people looked like they were rendered in like Unreal Engine or something like that. The characters were, uncharismatic, not convincing at all. Hang on, I've got a picture. Why don't I put my picture up? Blathering on about, there we go, on about Halo, and I forgot to put my picture up because I'm an idiot. As you can see, there's Master Chief and his Spartans. But he takes his helmet off. You see his face. He just looks like actually a CG person. I know he ain't. I don't know the name of the actor. He's a Schreiber. He's a Liev Schreiber's brother, apparently. I don't know, but I don't know if I'll be watching anymore. It wasn't terrible. I'm not going to rant and rage like some people do, because it wasn't a hideous, abomination of a program. But it just wasn't very good, and I didn't really. I kept looking at my phone. I even tweeted out, it was boring me, and it wasn't very good. So it obviously didn't grab me. As I said, the effects weren't very good. The characters weren't very good. The story wasn't very good. The editing wasn't very good. Just scenes just cut, went to black for no, and you thought, hey, what's happened there? I thought something had gone wrong, to be honest. And then the next scene just starts. And, it just badly filmed as well. Just, some weird shot selections. It's very strange. It's a very strange series. Don't know how many millions and millions and millions of dollars it cost, but they've wasted the money. Because I don't think it'll get, very good reviews unless it drastically improves. But we'll have to wait and see, won't we? That's my mantra. We'll have to wait and see. So there we go. So that's my opinion on Halo Season 1, Episode 1. Don't ask me what it was called. If it had a title, I don't know. Obviously, we haven't even seen the Halo in it yet. I don't think they know what a Halo is. We've just seen the Spartans and the Covenant, soldiers, creatures. And that's about it. And, the ships and stuff. I'm not a big Halo fan. I've got to admit, I'm not a big Halo fan. I played the first game when it came out, and that's about it. I haven't played any of the others. I think my son's got Halo Infinite, but I don't think he's even played that, so we probably got it cheap. So there we go. So anyway, so we'll get rid of that picture, and I shall put the news up. There we go. And first up, it's a bit of breaking news, really. I just saw this before I came on air. How Lucasfilm surprised Ahsoka's Rosario Dawson with Luke Skywalker scenes. And there she is, and there's Luke. The DA's Luke, or deep faked. This is from the Direct, seem to be everywhere at the moment. As usual, all the links are in the description box below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I always get this wrong. Where's my hands? I can never do it backwards. I'm like this when reversing a car. I just can't do it. Where's my other hand? Oh, it's that one. See, I move it wrong hand. I'm looking at my window there, my little screen, and I can't. I'm useless. I'd be rubbish on the Krypton factor, tell you. Anyway, it's up there, look at them red boxes. Like and subscribe and share the videos and use the notification bell and drop a comment and, join me live if you can hear me somehow in the ether, even though there's no live viewer, so can you know. Whatever. Anyway, so let's crack on. How Lucasfilm surprised Ahsoka's Rosario Dawson with Luke Skywalker scenes. Can you see that? Yes, you can. The groundbreaking success of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus has catapulted the world of Star Wars to the forefront of pop culture in a way the sequel trilogy struggled to do. Yeah, 'cause it was crap. Apart from Force Awakens. I enjoyed that at the time, but it's sort of like being... as the years have gone by and obviously The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker came out, it's tainted, isn't it? It's tainted. Din Djarin's action-packed adventures across the galaxy with Baby Yoda have seen the duo bump into plenty of familiar faces from the wider world, including Bo-Katan Kryze, Boba Fett, and I say Boba. I know I say this every time. I say Boba Fett because that's just how I've always pronounced it, and it's how Harrison Ford pronounced it in Return of the Jedi. So I say Boba Fett. None of this Boba nonsense. And Ahsoka Tano, some of which have already spawned spin-offs. The Book of Boba Fett recently became the first spin-off series to spawn out of Jon Favreau's Mandoverse, and while it may have somewhat become The Mandalorian Season 2.5, which it intensely was, it still delivered plenty of thrills. It wasn't very good. It wasn't very good, really. Well, not terrible, but just not very good. Just underwhelming. Right, not the least of which came in the series' 6th episode, which saw Din Djarin travel to visit Baby Yoda and set up appearances from Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano. I'm sorry, I don't like these names that they've come up with. Din Djarin, it's a horrible name, isn't it? It's not a nice... They could have thought of a better name. Did Jon Favreau think of this name, or it thought by a committee? I don't know, but Din Djarin, Grogu... Just not an attractive name. Anyway, travel to visit Baby Yoda and set up appearances from Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano. Having served as the Clone Wars era Padawan to Anakin Skywalker, seeing Tano come face to face with the son of the legendary Sith Lord was an exciting surprise. But it appears that it wasn't just audiences who were surprised to see Ahsoka finally meeting Luke Skywalker. Or did she? If you know what I mean. Ahsoka actress describes Luke Skywalker's surprise, and there she is with Luke. In a recent post on Twitter, The Mandalorian's Ahsoka Tano actress Rosario Dawson shared her ecstatic reaction to working with Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker on the Book of Boba Fett Episode 6. In response to a fan questioning her excitement to share the screen with Luke Skywalker, Dawson revealed she was freaking out. Pardon me. And is still pinching herself that she had the chance to work with Hamill. And the quote, the tweet reads, "Are you kidding? I was freaking out. I'm still pinching myself that I got to work with Mark Hamill as Ahsoka." Well, no, she was Ahsoka. Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. I know. I didn't know my scene was with Luke till day of shooting. The Ahsoka star went on to reveal she only discovered on the day of filming that her scenes on the Book of Boba Fett would be shared with Luke Skywalker himself, a legend in the Star Wars franchise. Now, there's some confusion as to whether actually Mark Hamill were on set. I mean, she suggested that he was, and there were is it a Forbes article? I think there was an article in Forbes about that day, about de-aging Mark Hamill, and there was, I think that article said that he was on set to do his scenes as Luke Skywalker, but then they used a stuntman to do the jumping about and stuff when they were training Grogu. So that suggests that he actually was there, but there's been other reports that he wasn't actually there, and it was just all a body double, and it wasn't even his voice. It was one of these computer generated voices that they can do. It's like deep fake, but for voices. And there's been that rumour going round, but she said he were there. Forbes article said he were there, so I suppose we've got to believe that he were there. Anyway, Lucasfilm has truly taken Marvel Studios' infamous reputation of secrecy in stride with its Star Wars Disney Plus series. The trailers for The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi have made a point of avoiding any specific story details and have omitted many major characters. This concept has run all across Disney Plus's blockbuster projects. Baby Yoda / Grogu, this Baby Yoda, wasn't even revealed until The Mandalorian premiered its first episode. It was a good reveal though. Since then, Lucasfilm has done an excellent job of keeping the biggest surprises behind lock and key, including the appearances of Luke Skywalker, Cad Bane and many more. In order to maintain the intense levels of secrecy, it's vital that a minimal portion of the cast and crew are aware of what's happening on set. Director Jon Favreau has previously described how few crew members were on set for Luke Skywalker's The Mandalorian cameo, while most were told the aforementioned Jedi appearance would be from the Clone Wars Plo Koon. Nonetheless, many will be surprised to hear even the actress in question was kept out of the loop on the details of her own scenes, but no doubt working with the Star Wars legend generated quite the reaction from Rosario Dawson. The Ahsoka actress will no doubt be kept more in the know in the future as she prepares to greatly increase her role in the Mandoverse, with her own Disney Plus series expected to begin filming this year for a spring 2023 premiere. For now, The Book of Boba Fett is streaming now exclusively on Disney Plus. Yeah, it's not very good. It's not very good, to be honest. Apart from that second to last episode, third to last episode, which is basically The Mandalorian season 3. Right, so there we go. So that's that one. Sticking with Star Wars, even though I've got my Star Trek cap on, but we're going to be doing Star Trek in a bit. This is from Bounding Into Comics, so expect controversy. Ooh, a little insect. Oh, never mind. Obi-Wan Kenobi director Deborah Chow reveals that Darth Vader won't be quite as fully formed as the Vader shown in A New Hope. Alongside making radical changes to Obi-Wan Kenobi, it also appears that Lucasfilm will be making changes to Darth Vader as well. And there he is, Franco Vader, as in, Frankenstein. Not that he's French. Because then it'd be going, no, instead of no. In a recent interview with Entertainment Weekly, Obi-Wan Kenobi director Deborah Chow, go away, insect, go away, go fly somewhere else. Never mind flying in front of me when I'm trying to do a show live. I'm not going to kill you. Director Deborah Chow discussed Darth Vader, revealing the character won't be quite as fully formed as the Darth Vader fans were introduced to in the original Star Wars film. Why not? Why isn't he fully formed? He seemed quite fully formed in Rogue One, didn't he? I know that's after this. But, it's been 10 years. I mean, good heavens. Anyway, however, before she provided some brief details about how Darth Vader will appear in the show, she discussed why she decided... Oh, I'm picking me nose. She just itched, so my finger just automatically went there. I'm disgusting. She discussed why she decided to include the character in the series in the first place. Hope I haven't got any bogies, because that would be really embarrassing. Chow stated, honestly, for me, the starting place was that I really wanted to do something that was character-based and character-driven, because that is the benefit of the limited series, is that you have more time to sort of tell a real character story. And so for me, the starting place of character is you just start and you look at who has been important to him in his life. And it's quite hard to avoid Anakin/Vader in that scenario, especially coming out of Revenge of the Sith, she continued. She concluded, so really, it came out of an evolution of the character for me. It wasn't just to sort of bring him back, it was really like, who means something and where are we at this point in the timeline with Vader? Chow previously explained why she was including Vader in a teaser promo for the series on Disney Plus, saying we couldn't tell the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi without addressing Anakin or Vader. No, but the truth was, it were going to be Maul, wasn't it? And it was Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni said, no, make it bigger, so then they decided to use Vader instead. I'm sure they'll come to that in a minute. Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy dun, 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 also told Entertainment Weekly earlier this month that the decision to include Vader in the series was talked about constantly. She explained the debate around whether we should do that or not carried on for quite some time. Everybody within our creative team has strong opinions, and all of our fans have strong opinions. Yeah, they do. So when you realise that you're under that level of scrutiny, certainly a story point like that is going to be scrutinised at a very high level. We talked about it constantly, Kennedy added. Yeah, but you still just do what you want, don't you? What you think's best. Aside from explaining her decision to include Darth Vader in the series, Chow also provided some brief details about Vader for the show. She was asked by Entertainment Weekly, what kind of Vader will we see here on the show? We only saw him for a few very quick scenes at the end of Revenge of the Sith in that armour. Well, technically, no, you saw Darth Vader from as soon as he was named Darth Vader, and then he went off to Mustafar, didn't he? You know, even though he didn't have the mask and stuff, he was still Darth Vader, wasn't he? Anyway. But you know, splitting hairs. Anyway, we saw him for only a few very quick scenes at the end of Revenge of the Sith in that armour. So where does he pick up 10 years later? She answered, for us it was very similar to Obi-Wan in the sense that he's in between these two trilogies. So he isn't the New Hope Vader quite yet, you know what I mean? So we are with the character sort of in the middle of this period. It is still Vader, obviously, but it's a Vader that isn't quite as fully formed as a New Hope, she elaborated. I wonder what she means by fully formed, though. I mean, he's still, you know, a force to be reckoned with, isn't he? He always has been. But I don't know what she means by fully formed. Anyway. That's not a lot of information there, and I don't really know what she means when she says he isn't the New Hope Vader quite yet. To add on to that, it's also unclear what she means when she says he isn't quite fully formed as a New Hope. Remember, this show is taking place a decade after the events of Revenge of the Sith, and the original Star Wars trilogy, or A New Hope, takes place about 9 years after the events of this series are supposed to take place. I would think a decade of serving under the Emperor would make you pretty fully formed as a Sith Lord. Pardon me. In fact, one could argue Vader was quite fully formed, whatever that actually means, at the end of Revenge of the Sith. No! God, I hated that. That insect's buzzing about again. Go on. Go away. It's only a little tiny thing. Anyway, a little after halfway through the film, Anakin disobeys Mace Windu's orders. It's here again, look. I don't know if you can see it. It's landing on my screen and putting me off. Disobeys Mace Windu's orders and arrives at the Senate and chooses to chop off Windu's arm due to his own selfishness and greed, stemming from his desire to want to protect Padme from the death he sees in his visions. He actually thinks Palpatine's the only one that can save Padme. Obviously, it's all a lie. After chopping Windu's arm off, Darth Sidious finishes Windu off with Force lightning, sending him flying out of the window and hurtling to his death. Or does it? Unlimited power! That's what he's saying there. In the aftermath of this conflict, Anakin pledges his allegiance to Sidious and becomes his apprentice, telling him, I will do whatever you ask, just help me save Padme's life. I can't live without her. He then tells him, I pledge myself to your teachings. In response to this, Sidious says, the Force is strong with you. I can't do him. A powerful Sith Lord you will be. Henceforth you shall be known as Darth Vader. Because his voice all goes all funny and peculiar, doesn't it? For some reason. Anakin replies, thank you, my master. Sidious's first task for Vader is to eliminate all of the Jedi at the Jedi Temple, including the murder of younglings. I wonder if all of them were murdered, though. I wonder if some end up becoming inquisitors. Some of the older ones, obviously. Just a thought. He then instructs him to go to Mustafar and kill Viceroy Gunray and the rest of the Separatist leaders. Vader performs both tasks flawlessly, brutally murdering the younglings and then ferociously executing Gunray and the Separatists. Trouble is, when I think of that murdering of the younglings, I'm always thinking of Robot Chicken when he can't do it and he just thinks of he's chopping sunflower heads off. And then it cuts later to him and Padme's apartment, and he says, "I brought you some flowers, and they're in the kitchen." And she goes into the kitchen and you hear her screaming, because obviously there's youngling heads in a vase, probably, that we don't see. It's very funny. He would eventually be defeated by Obi-Wan Kenobi on Mustafar, but his seemingly turn to the dark side was completed as he shouted out his hate for Kenobi, even as he lay burning on Mustafar. Yeah, when Obi-Wan stole his lightsaber and just left him in, writhing in agony and pain, because it was his best friend. Unbelievable. This is why I think Obi-Wan murdered Beru and Owen and them Jawas, because, he's a nasty bugger. That's what he is. Never mind all this wise old mystic. Vader would then be rescued by Palpatine and surgically operated on, eventually donning the iconic black suit that Star Wars fans know so well. If there was any doubt that his turn to the dark side was not complete at this point, he is informed of Padme's death, but told that it was he that killed her. His rage is uncontrollable, even blasting the Emperor across the room. Does it? I don't remember that bit. I just remember everything, smashing up and the Emperor laughing. And you go, no, and then, everything smashes up and the Emperor don't get blasted anywhere. Not that I'd noticed anyway. I'm not going to watch it again, just to find out. The last scene with Vader and Sidious show the two on board an Imperial Star Destroyer. Well, it's probably a what they call them, one of them Republic destroyers, isn't it? It's not like a Star Destroyer, is it? Venator class or something like that, one of them. Anyway, overseeing the construction of the first Death Star. That seems to indicate a fully formed Darth Vader to me. Presuming this is John, what's his face? Where are we? Yeah, John F. Trent. Yeah, I was presuming it was John F. Trent. I've lost my place now. This seems like to indicate, a fully formed Darth Vader to me, albeit Marvel Comics has created a number of stories that take place directly following the events of Revenge of the Sith that depict him obtaining his iconic red lightsaber. It would also show his exploits as he commanded the Inquisitorius to hunt down Jedi who were able to avoid Order 66. In fact, in one storyline, he also attacks and kills his own Inquisitors that were forming a relationship with each other. The series would also foreshadow Vader's own desires that are contrary to the Emperor, which ultimately culminates in his own desire to rule the galaxy himself with his son at his side, as he expresses in The Empire Strikes Back. The series shows Vader as ruthless, efficient and deadly. Above all, he accomplishes whatever mission he is assigned and usually leaves a massive body count in his wake, as depicted there. All of this is supposed to happen before the time of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. What do you make of Chow's comments about Darth Vader not being fully formed for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series? And that's it. Yeah, I'm not sure what... As John said in this article, I'm not sure what she means when she says fully formed. I mean, yeah, he's not... He's the same character that we see in, A New Hope, obviously. But what she means by fully formed, I don't know. Does she mean he's got something else to go through? Another trial that's going to, enhance his character before we get to A New Hope? I don't know. Because he seemed pretty formidable in Rogue One. I mean, he doesn't look... When he fights Obi-Wan, it's a very slow fight, isn't it? It's not like we saw them in the prequel trilogy where they were leaping about and spinning and doing all this amazing stuff. It was slow, two-handed fighting, wasn't it? Which is fair enough. But in Rogue One, it seemed more powerful slightly in Rogue One. Deflecting laser bolts and all doing all sorts of stuff and using the Force and all this. But that were only that's a few hours before A New Hope, isn't it? So anyway, I don't know. So I don't know what she quite means. We'll find out because it's coming on in May the 25th. Be with you. So anyway, I think we're still on Obi-Wan. Yeah, we are. Obi-Wan Kenobi. I might have to adjust this screen. Obi-Wan Kenobi leak brings back a forgotten droid bounty hunter. I'm going to have to move this over. Sorry, Where is it? There we go. Right, Star Wars. Can you see it all? Yeah, it's there. Right. Star Wars wouldn't be Star Wars without droids. But in the era of Star Wars TV, droids are few and far between. Sure, there was IG-11 in The Mandalorian Season 1, and the Book of Boba Fett had a few cameo appearances, but it's been a while since a new droid was introduced to Star Wars canon. Instead, there seems to be a fascination with bounty hunters, whether it's Mando, Boba Fett, or one of the many members of the Bounty Hunters Guild. Bounty hunters are in vogue. This Obi-Wan Kenobi leak suggests we'll see the best of both worlds in a bounty hunter droid. Well, IG-11 were a bounty hunter. Anyway. According to Star Wars Newsnet, 4-LOM will appear in Obi-Wan Kenobi. That may sound like the name of a lawn care product, but if you've seen The Empire Strikes Back, you've seen this insect-headed droid before. He was one of the many bounty hunters recruited by Darth Vader to hunt down Han Solo. Since the movies focused on Boba Fett, the other candidates became fodder for the now non-canon Legends storylines. Oh, pardon me. Let me have a drinky. Have a drink of my water. Wet my whistle, so to speak. According to Legends, 4-LOM was created to be a protocol droid like C-3PO, but while on board the luxury liner Kuari Princess, so wouldn't that change that to the Halcyon, innit? I bet they do. He got into a game with the ship's computer. I bet the Halcyon is on Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we'll see 4-LOM on the Halcyon. Bet we do. Bet you £3.62. Go into a game with the ship's computer, calculating all the hypothetical ways a thief could pilfer the passengers' valuables. This programming went overboard, and eventually 4-LOM was stealing the items himself for safekeeping. Lost Legends is an inverse series about the forgotten Lord of Arthur. Is that just an advert? I don't know. Anyway, across the years, 4-LOM, there's a picture of him, obviously. An artist's rendition from a Star Wars Galaxy's training card game. Right, across the years, 4-LOM became a master thief, and after an alteration to his programming, a bounty hunter. He often worked with fellow bounty hunter Zuckuss in the first years of the Galactic Empire, but that happened years after Obi-Wan Kenobi is supposedly set, so what could 4-LOM have to do with this post-prequel adventure? The answer may lie in one of 4-LOM's... am I saying that right? I don't know. Many criminal careers. Before his software was altered, 4-LOM also worked as an information broker, passing off pieces of information for the right price. The world of Obi-Wan Kenobi may need a broker, as Obi-Wan gets involved in some adventure that tears him away from his watch over a young Luke. 4-LOM could be the perfect answer. And there's Boba Fett shooting a droid. Is he shooting 4-LOM there? I don't know. Oh yeah, Boba Fett shoots 4-LOM in the Shadows of the Empire trading card. There we go. Introducing 4-LOM into the Obi-Wan Kenobi canon fits the show perfectly. They're already bringing back Darth Vader, so why not revive another villain from the original trilogy, one that never got his due the first time around. Plus, with advances in special effects, the bug-headed droid is sure to look impressive. If this leak is to be believed, then we can probably count on all sorts of original trilogy Easter eggs beyond just Darth Vader. Obi-Wan Kenobi is a huge opportunity to give some much-needed screen time to forgotten characters who, in a scant few seconds, cemented their role in the galaxy. It's wonder that it's a far, far away. There we go. Forlom might be coming to Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know, which is okay. It's okay, I suppose. I don't mind. I'm trying to adjust it, I'll be right. Near enough. Sticky, so Forlom anyway. So what do you think of Forlom coming back? Yeah, whatever. Right, sticking with Star Wars again. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Is it Ghislaine or Ghislaine? I don't know. Raza. The Star Wars kid, remember him, comes out of his silence in a documentary, and there's a picture of him doing his stuff. Ghislaine Raza was 15. Can you see that? Yeah, was 15 when he filmed letting himself go. I'll start again. I said Ghislaine. I don't know if it's Ghislaine or Ghislaine, but I said Ghislaine. Ghislaine Raza was 15 when he filmed himself letting go of his madman. The video, made public by students at his school, has been downloaded millions of times, exposing the teenager in particular to ridicule. What convinced Ghislaine Raza to participate in the documentary was the desire of screenwriter and director Matthew Fournier to go into the reflection. Has this been translated? Because it seems a bit strange. Anyway. I wouldn't have been interested in doing something just biographical or even tearful and sensationalist, he explained on Friday at the microphone of Patrick Masbourian at A Whole Morning. I don't know. Is this on I don't know. Yeah, I think it's been translated, hasn't it? That the story to be taken for its potential for social utility was ultimately the greatest wish I could have had, adds the young man. Moreover, by making this documentary, Matthew Fournier wanted to use the story of Ghislaine Raza to talk about a current reality. We had the opportunity to take back control of the story and give Ghislaine the opportunity to meet people and step out of this digital shadow that has taken over for so long. Although his story may seem very current with the presence of the internet in our lives, Ghislaine Raza maintains that it is unique. However, cyberbullying and the dissemination of images without consent, like those of which he was the victim, remains a very present phenomenon because young people are very active on social networks. These problems are ultimately more insidious. These stories do not attract media attention. They will happen undercover, and that is the danger, says Ghislaine Raza, and I presume that's him. That's him in the documentary. Ghislaine Raza is considered to be patient zero of virality, according to several people who intervene in the documentary. Director Matthew Fournier was particularly interested in the cultural phenomenon that this story had become at the time. It's not the only viral video there has been, but in terms of a phenomenon, it marked the era. What's even more impressive and significant is the loss of image control. This video was born in a rather banal way. Ghislaine Raza says he was helping another student after a gala de meritas. I don't know what that means. He wanted to make a parody of popular films of the time and asked me to help him with the special effects of the famous lightsabers, he explains. Given a problem with the software, Ghislaine Raza decided to film himself several times to create a special effect. Once in front of the camera for this final take, I released the frustration and the tension. It's a take that he would say burlesque, and it's the video you know now. Obviously, the teenager at the time had no intention of releasing this video. Comrades found the VHS tape, digitised it, and released it without his consent. So that gave rise to this video, which without context can give rise to all sorts of interpretations. That's what's happened, says Ghislaine Raza. One of the Raza family lawyers points out that the number of views of the video and searches with the word Star Wars Kid on search engines were enormous. It exceeded those on Pamela Anderson or the Pope, the most searched names at the time. At first, it's a news item, but in 24 hours it wasn't anymore, says Francois Vision in the documentary. From that moment, Ghislaine Razza's life became hell. At school, the situation had become hellish. Management offered no support. I was even made the problem in their eyes. Eventually, I was told that I was not welcome to come back the following year. That's a bit nasty, innit? Bastards. Apart from the harassment that Ghislaine Razza had suffered on the internet, the media attention was high. Some media were even on the ground with us. It was heavy to carry, he says. The documentary director thinks that the media would thankfully not react in the same way these days. It's special to realise that the first thing you say is that this 15-year-old should laugh about it rather than see it in a dramatic way, says Matthew Fournier. Almost 20 years later, in the comments under the video still present on the web, people say that Ghislaine Razza is a legend. Yeah, he is. How does he see that? It is certain that there is a rather particular contrast. For some people, this story took on a very different meaning from what I had to experience at the time. If people can use that and get something positive out of it, so much the better. Good lad. In the documentary, Ghislaine Razza speaks with young people his age at the time who say the internet is essential to their lives. What does he think? It is striking. It highlights the risk of slippage. I don't have a negative speech. I think there can be advantages, but the risks must not be hidden and we must talk about them. Matthew Fournier adds that young people use their smartphones like parents, but the young people showed great sensitivity and curiosity to Ghislaine's story. The use of words like consent surprised me. There is perhaps a part of education that has been well done. God, how long is this going for? Nearly done. Moreover, the resilience of Ghislaine Razza impressed the young people who participated in the documentary. How did he weather the storm? Deep down, I may not even know it, but when I really felt adversity looming on the horizon, I felt a form of resilience taking root within me, when you could see the meanest comments encouraging me to suicide. I said to myself that on the contrary, I was going to stay here, supports Ghislaine Razza. Yes, well, I suppose he had to develop a thick skin, didn't he, basically. For him, the priority was to have a life as normal as possible, despite his character, which had been created in spite of him. I often say, I'm not the Star Wars kid. Me, it's Ghislaine. It's a character associated with me, but it's not me, he said. In the documentary, we even see him going to meet the people who shared the video, in particular the American blogger Andy Bayo. Don't know if I pronounced that properly. Sorry. I think it's Bayo, isn't it? If they apologised, they did not ask forgiveness. As for me, I may not hold a grudge, but forgiveness is something you give to someone. If there is no request, the pardon remains in abeyance, concludes the young man. He sounds very intelligent. The film will be shown on Télé-Québec on March 30th at 8 p.m. and on the National Film Board's website from March 31st. There you go. Yeah, but like I say, he's become a legend, hasn't he? I think when it first came out, it was humorous and funny, wasn't it? But then people started changing it, didn't they? They're actually putting the lightsabers, onto the videos of him. And, these days he'd be a millionaire. It'd be on YouTube. I mean, maybe he is, I don't know, but it'd be monetised, wouldn't it, on YouTube? And he'd have a lot of money from it. But back then, I think it was less of a thing. Right, so we'll move on. We're going to Star Trek now. We're going to Star Trek. Star Trek Picard. I might have to move the thing again. How the actor playing young Guinan, E2 Agaye, I don't know, stepped into Whoopi Goldberg's shoes. Spoiler warning, you don't care. Right, can you read all that? Yeah, I think it all fits, don't it? There you go. As even casual fans of Star Trek The Next Generation know, one of the beloved sci-fi show's most meaningful relationships was between Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart, and the proprietor of the main bar on the USS Enterprise, 10 Forward, Guinan, Whoopi Goldberg. And she even called it 10 Forward, because it were on 10, number 10 Forward Avenue in 2024, when allegedly she didn't know anything about the Enterprise, the future that were going to happen. How would she know she didn't name 10 forward on the Enterprise D. That was its place on the ship. It was on deck 10 in the forward section. That's why it was called 10 forward. Just a coincidence. It was just a coincidence. The characters... Sorry, it gets me... it does me head in. The characters mean so much to each other that Stewart moved Goldberg to tears when he invited her to join him on the Next Generation sequel series Star Trek Picard. Not in episode 4 though, is she? While appearing on an episode of The View in January 2020. The season 2 premiere of Picard wastes little time in bringing Goldberg back as Guinan, with a lovely scene in which the two old friends throw back some strong hooch. Is an android, won't affect him, in Guinan's bar on Earth as she attempts to soothe Picard's wounded psyche. Sorry, he's a replicant, isn't he? He's a flesh and blood android, as it were described. It turns out that scene wasn't just an exercise in nostalgia either. After his reunion with Guinan, Picard finds himself plunged into a horrific alternate timeline in which the Federation doesn't exist. The Earth is the centre of a violent totalitarian empire, and Jean-Luc Picard has risen to power as a ruthless and bloodthirsty conqueror. Well, he's not risen to power, has he? He's a general, isn't he? But it's Annika Hansen that's risen to power, isn't it? Somehow. Anyway, so with the rest of the show's main cast, all of whom retain their memories of how things used to be, Picard travels back in time to 2024 to the point where he believes the timeline diverged irrevocably from its true path. And that's how in episode 4, The Watcher, Picard finds himself stepping back into Guinan's bar, where he comes face to face with a young Guinan. Looks nothing like Whoopi Goldberg. Looks nothing like the Guinan that we saw in Time's Arrow. As the exclusive clip below illustrates, instead of Goldberg, however, the character is played by Ito Aguirre. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that, sorry, I apologise. Who was in Carol's second act, which I've never heard of. In her exclusive first interview about the role with Variety, Aguirre, I just say Ito, reveals that playing Guinan was the fulfilment of a lifelong dream to be a part of Star Trek, especially The Next Generation. I watched all of TNG as a kid, primarily because my parents are immigrants. What's that got to do with it? And they're very conservative, she said in a Zoom interview. As a kid growing up, there were very few shows that they would let us watch without having to care what it was about or understand what it was about. She laughed. I don't think I told Patrick, as I probably should have, but they thought he looked really smart and intelligent, she said. So they were like, she's going to learn something, let them watch it. I couldn't watch Power Rangers, but I could watch Star Trek. Rather than pour him a drink, Ito's Guinan is so deeply disillusioned with humanity that she pulls a shotgun on Picard when he reveals he knows she's a member of a long-lived alien species called Elorians. But as much as she enjoyed shooting the scene as a TNG devotee, Aguirre also noticed that it seems strange that her Guinan does not recognise Picard at all when he steps into her bar. Ooh. I wonder how they explained it to her. That's because in the 2-part TNG episode Time's Arrow, Guinan first meets Picard in 1893 San Francisco, part of a twisty time travel plotline that is launched when the severed head of the android Data, Brent Spiner, is discovered after it seemingly spent 500 years buried in a California cavern. So Aguirre said she asked executive producer and showrunner Terry Matalas about why Guinan wouldn't recognise Picard in 2024 if she'd met him so memorably in 1893, and this is where he talks out of his ass. I think that Terry does in terms of storytelling when it comes to time travel is just brilliant, she said at first with a smile. I don't think he ever got me a clear answer on it, because I don't know, and I think, she paused for a long time, I never will. I was going to say in a minute. Fortunately, a representative for Paramount Plus did provide a rather head-squeezing answer from Matalas on this question. Guinan does not recognise Picard in 2024. Fans might be briefly confused by this because she did meet him on Earth in 1893 in The Next Generation. The reason that she doesn't recognise Picard is that he's travelled from a future in which Starfleet doesn't exist, yes it does, and therefore the whole thing with Data's head in Time's Arrow never happened. In other words, the alternate reality Picard was too busy conquering and never travelled back in time to 1893, so he never met Guinan then. So it means that if that were the case, then it doesn't matter what they do. They travel back in time to 2024 to change. They've travelled back to stop something happening, so that the future totalitarian regime won't exist. There's an event that happens on the 15th of April that they've got to either stop or make sure it happens, or there's something they've got to make sure it happens or doesn't happen, so that this totalitarian timeline doesn't exist, which means the time they're existing in 2024 is in the prime Trek timeline. So he did go back in time, and Time's Arrow did happen, and Future's End on Voyager happened, and Star Trek for the Voyage Home happened. We know that Star Trek for the Voyage Home happened because the scene on the bus with Kirk Thatcher as the punk, he holds his neck when Seven tells him to stop playing his noise. It gets me dead, man. It does. It gets me so angry. Time travel shenanigans aside, Aguirre talked with Variety about how much Guinan meant to her, how she approached playing the role, and what surprising gift cemented her own friendship with Stewart. When you were first watching The Next Generation, what do you remember of your feelings about Guinan and who she was? Oh man, I just thought she was so cool. I have to paint a picture of you. What it was like back then. I had braces until I was a freshman in college, so I was the epitome of a black nerd. So watching Whoopi just steal scenes right out from under Patrick Stewart, I love you, Patrick, but just stealing scenes left and right, it just felt so empowering to watch her do that. Looking back now, I just think this woman completely encapsulated the kind of Puck-like quality of being both mischievous and omniscient. She wasn't in that many episodes, so to have such a pivotal impact on the series is quite remarkable. As a kid, every time I saw and guest starring Whoopi Goldberg, I was like, yes, she's back. It's going to be a good one. So given your abiding love for the show and this character, what was your reaction when you first learned it was not only Star Trek Picard, but the role was a younger Guinan? It was actually quite strange. I found out the normal way. My reps were like, there's this role, we have no idea what it is, but it looks interesting. Read it. At the time, my character's name was Gwen. I had no idea she was Guinan. They were dummy sides. It was a scene that was written that had the same dynamic and the same relationship to the actual scene from the episode with a person named John and a woman named Gwen. All I knew is that when I read the scene, I felt like I understood her. I understood her bitterness and her disappointment and her fear to hope in the world. That's what locked me in, just to the story that she seemed to be telling, which resonated with me as a black woman in America. It felt like a story I wanted to tell. She's bitter now in 2024. But yet she managed to live through, life on Earth when, race relations, in the 20th century and the late 19th century were infinitely worse than they are now. Unbelievable. But did you know it was for Star Trek at least? I had no idea that it was Star Trek. I found out maybe two callbacks in that that it was Star Trek. It was one of those things where I was like, no way. There are very few moments in an actor's career where you get to be in the thing that you loved as a kid. I wouldn't be excited. I know I'm not an actor, but I wouldn't be happy to be in Star Trek these days. I wouldn't. I would not at all. Usually those things end as they should, unless you're auditioning for Grey's Anatomy and were born in 2000, so it didn't sink into me until I was doing my final test with producers. It was at that point of the pandemic where my now husband and I couldn't be in the house anymore, so I was at Mount Zion National Park in some hotel room with my laptop stacked on top of the suitcase, stacked on top of a case of water, doing this really heartfelt scene. I think it was with Terry Matalas, the showrunner. And at that point, in that moment, I was like, this is legit. This is Star Trek 9. No, it ain't. How did that feel? It was lovely, because the thing about Star Trek is that they don't shy away from delving into really reflective topics that shed a light on the world that we live in. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to shed a light, not to mirror it. There's this moment where Guinan lets loose on John, and she's just like, your privilege blinds you from my pain. And it's just, what more can I say as a black woman? It just went there for me. So to be able to be with people who are writing about something that still resonates with me as a 33-year-old woman was cathartic. To be able to tell stories that are still relevant in a universe that means a lot to me, it was just unreal. Yeah, but you're playing an alien, you're playing an Elorian, you're not playing a human woman. You're an Elorian who's seen species all across the galaxy, all shapes and sizes and creeds and colours. So why would the plight of black people on Earth affect her so much? It wouldn't. And Picard would be like scratching his head thinking, what's she on about? What's this privilege she's talking about? I don't understand. Because in the 24th century, in the 25th century, which is he's now in it, in Picard, there's no racial segregation and all that. It doesn't exist, does it? There's no whatever race you are from Earth. There's just one race, isn't there? The human race, and that's it. So he'd be like, "What's she talking about?" Because that's the life he's led. What really struck me in your performance is that Guinan is in a much different place than Whoopi Goldberg's. She's much more emotionally demonstrative and distraught. How did you work on connecting on what Whoopi had done in the role while differentiating yourself? Rewatching her episodes, it gave me a lens into the future of who this character would be. In some ways, what I did was reverse engineer what someone has grown into in order to be Whoopi's Guinan. What wisdom doesn't she have access to? What optimism does she not subscribe to, so that she can have a place to go? What does she not know yet that she will come to learn to be the enigmatic wise counsellor that she is in TNG? One of the things that I did was go through all of the different moments through TNG where Whoopi's Guinan mentions things about loss, things about her history, things about her pain. I took note of every moment where she hints at a past pain. That allowed me to strip that down into its component parts. What wisdom do I have now but isn't applied in the best way? And I think that's why this story can happen, because I need the Picard of Whoopi's timeline to at least get me going along the path of where Whoopi's Guinan ends up. What is something you wanted to emulate physically from Whoopi's performance as Guinan? By the way, I don't know all about this pain that Guinan had when she was on the Enterprise D. Don't know. I mean, the only pain, really, is the Borg. Her experiences with the Borg. That's the only pain I know, because she talked about her family and stuff like that, and she's been married a few times, and she's got umpteen kids, apparently. But she never talks about pain. She talks about her experiences, but never about any pain, apart from the Borg. And the Nexus, obviously. I think Whoopi had this beautiful stillness to her work. I took that to be that to come from a place of confidence and an ease with which she exists in her body. She sits in the centre of herself in each moment. You never see her fidgeting. You never see her move around. I wanted to use that. I think that is the key to who this person is. But in 2024 Guinan, I think that stillness is used as a weapon. It is the precursor to a threat, to an attack. It is aggressive. It's not out of place of ease. It's out of a place of I'm going to gauge what I need to do to protect myself. It is selfish in many ways. It's not giving in the way that I think Whoopi's Guinan is. Why don't you leave? If it got so bad that you had to tote a shotgun in your bar that you've somehow knows going to be called the same place that you'll have on a ship in 400 years. Oh, don't get me going. It's getting me mad again. Did you get to meet Whoopi? I didn't because of the pandemic. There were so many stops and starts with closures and people getting sick. So pretty much no one shot anything in sequence. It was a lot of bouncing around. I think they'd hoped at one point that it could work out. I'm still holding out hope. I think eventually it will make a connection. You did, of course, meet Patrick Stewart since all your scenes were with him. What was that like for you? He is such a generous actor on and off the screen. One of our first scenes together, besides having to go there calling him out on his privilege as Jean-Luc. See, they've done that again. They did that in first season, didn't they, with Raffi? You know, when she were in a trailer by Vasquez Rocks, smoking a vape thing. She went on about his privilege in that, didn't they? So they just can't help themselves, just dragging him down. I also had to pull a shotgun on the man and look calm doing it. And I mean, he has a Sir in front of his name. Makes it Sir Patrick Stewart, isn't he? He was just ready for it. He was like, bring it. And he's such a sweet soul. A friend of mine had told me he really likes this yeast thing, Marmite. Because I have family in the UK, I know it and I hate it. It's nice, it's Marmite. Marmite on toast, it's good stuff. And I was like, I wondered if it'd be cheesy to get him a little jar of Marmite. It's so random. Why would some random person you're working with just hand you a jar of Marmite? And so the first time we met, we're outside and I have this jar of Marmite in this bag. I'm like, Patrick, you don't know me, but here's the Marmite. He lost it. He was like, oh my goodness, Marmite. I love this stuff. Who told you? And that's how we started. He just brought this joy. He doesn't have to be kind and warm and generous. And he does. It was just thrilling. There you go, that's it. Marmite, yeah, it's like a yeast spread, a yeast concentrate. In Australia, they've got Vegemite. In the UK, we've got Marmite. I don't know if there's a version in America. They might just have the same stuff. I don't know. But it's nice on toast. But don't spread it too thick or it'll make you go like that. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. But yeah, there she is. Looks nothing like Whoopi Goldberg. Nothing at all. Looks nothing like the Whoopi Goldberg of Time's Arrow either. And didn't act like the Whoopi Goldberg of Time's Arrow. Right, Star Trek again. Star Trek's Kate Mulgrew throws jabs at Discovery spin-off, and she says she's the only true female captain. We'll get on with it. The world of Star Trek was resurrected for the small screen by CBS All Access, now Paramount Plus, in 2017 with the brand new series Star Trek Discovery. Yes, I enjoyed season 1 because I didn't know where it was going to go, and it was different. Didn't like the Klingons, didn't like the ship designs, but I was prepared, to see what happens. And then it just all went to shit, didn't it? Anyway, meanwhile, the show's first ever female captain, Kate Mulgrew, has She wasn't the first ever female captain. She was the first ever female captain that led a series. But we'd seen female captains before. Anyway, has reprised her role, her role as Captain Catherine Janeway for the first time in over 20 years, but admitted that she hasn't been watching the adventures of her successor Michael Burnham, played by Sunil Martin Green. Yeah, because it's rubbish. Probably why, but she won't say that, will she? Star Trek legend Kate claims she was the only true female captain in the Star Trek franchise, despite Michael taking the helm in Discovery. Speaking exclusively to The Express, ahead of the UK release of Star Trek Prodigy, Kate revealed she doesn't think Janeway's story is over at the end of Voyager. Well, no, because she becomes an admiral, doesn't she? It would be interesting to see how she is in her dotage, she explained. I think probably very, very advanced in her spatial science, probably more passionate than ever, and certainly more fearless. She were gorgeous, she were. I liked her long hair, though. Don't show it there. In the first couple of seasons, she had long hair, and then she cut it. I miss that long hair. Kate became the first ever female Star Trek captain when Voyager began in 19... No, she won't. She was the first to lead a series, but there were female captains before. Tyler Scott, for example, and many, many more. Captain Rachel Garrett of the Enterprise C. Anyway, although other female captains have been seen throughout the show's history, Janeway was the only one to have led her own series until Burnham's promotion. Yeah, but you didn't just add that then. If you're going to put yourself right. Anyway, as Burnham has held a number of different roles in Discovery, Janeway is the only central female character to have started and remained as captain throughout her tenure. She added, Janeway is still the only real. I know everybody's going to jump up and say this is wrong, but I'm saying it's right. Still really the only true female captain. And under her voice is still like Catherine Hepburn. Because she played Catherine Hepburn, didn't she, in a TV movie or a proper movie or whatever. Because she's very like Catherine Hepburn. It's kind of spooky. I am proud of it. That franchise is tough. 7 years, it's no joke. Initially introduced as the first officer of the USS Shenzhou, Burnham commits mutiny and is later recruited by Gabriel Lorca, Jason Isaacs on USS Discovery. She gets sent to prison, obviously stripped of her rank and everything, and she goes back on the Discovery as a specialist, called a specialist Burnham, don't they? Anyway, by the end of the third season, however, Michael is promoted to captain and commands the ship as the Federation takes on a new threat. Yeah, at the end of season 1, she got a rank back as commander, and her mutiny, were expunged. Even though she still committed mutiny. Anyway. Whatever. Season 4 of Discovery aired its finale earlier this month, and the 5th instalment is officially on the way. Oh, we haven't done yet. I thought we'd done then. Although the latest Star Trek iteration has been well received by critics and some Trekkies, some, it's a very small some. Should have written that in a little, really tiny text. Kate admitted she hasn't been watching the franchise's latest offerings. I'm not going to comment on Discovery because I haven't really watched it, she admitted. Is it fair? There's just so much to see, and I'd rather watch Prodigy, because she's in that. And I've got to admit, Prodigy is not too bad. It's not Star Trek, but it's not too bad. In addition to Discovery and Prodigy, the franchise has also returned Patrick Stewart to his iconic role as Captain Jean-Luc Picard in 2 seasons of his own sequel series. There's also a new prequel in the original series titled Strange New Worlds in the works, which is coming out soon, with Anson Mount reprising his Discovery appearance as Enterprise Captain Christopher Pike. It's going to be awful. In March this year, actor Paul Wesley was announced to be playing James T. Kirk for the show's 2nd season, which has already begun filming. Plus, a second outing for Prodigy is also in the works, as well as Paramount Plus's animated comedy series Star Trek Lower Decks. God, I hate that show. Oh, that's it, right. But yeah, good for you, Kate. You tell them. Look at her. Gorgeous. She is. It's my favourite Starfleet captain is Janeway. Don't take any crap. She got a crew home. So if you can hear a pinging, that's somebody sending me a message on my phone. I think I know who it probably is. Shush. Picard's surprise Star Trek cameo sets up a ridiculous MCU crossover. This is going back to Picard again. Oh, does it say that? Yeah, Picard. Yeah. That last episode with Kirk Thatcher. Which I didn't realise until I read this. Right, Star Trek likes to boldly go where no one has gone before. But prepare yourselves, because we're about to take your mind to new levels of absurdity that perhaps no fan theory has ever gone before. Although that's not to say it can't be true. It's a silly thing. The theory in question all starts with Picard's latest Season 2 episode titled Watcher. I thought it was The Watcher, whatever. With our beloved team scattered across 2024. Not exactly scattered. That's about a little bit. Seven and Raffi are forced to use public transportation in this episode to try and find Brios. I can't roll my R's, as I said in the review. My tongue's fastened down at front. I'm a mutant. I am Stupid boy. It's a rough ride, not helped by the presence of an annoying punk who blasts his music proudly on the bus. Well, this isn't just any old punk. As anyone who loved Star Trek IV The Voyage Home might recall, this is actually the exact same character who we last saw in the 1986 film. And yes, he's still played by the same actor, Kirk Thatcher, almost 4 decades on. And there he is. If you're a really die-hard fan, you might have also noticed that the punk is blasting out a new version of his song I Hate You, which is now called I Still Hate You, in what might be the best and geekiest callback Star Trek's ever pulled off. Back in the 80s, Spock used a Vulcan nerve pinch to shut the guy up, but here Seven's plea to stop that noise does the trick instead. And while it's true he might have mellowed in his old age, it's also possible that this punk recognised how similar this request sounded to the words that Admiral Kirk used against him in the 80s. Even though this version of Thatcher's character didn't meet Kirk and Spock due to all of the wibbly-wobbly timeline business going on in Picard's second season, yes he did. These echoes might have still induced some time sickness, much like what young Guinan experiences upon hearing words uttered by her future self. Don't. That might explain why the punk is so willing to accommodate Seven's request, and bear with us because that's actually quite key to where we're going to end up. Executive producer and co-showrunner Terry Matalas essentially endorsed this idea during a recent chat with Trek Movie. Now, technically, Star Trek IV wouldn't have happened in this alternate timeline. It's not alternate timeline yet. Still Prime. But maybe some part of him remembers his encounter with Spock in the Prime timeline. Yeah, we're still on that, though, because the branching nexus point hasn't happened yet. And it made me chuckle that he'd go up against 7 of 9. Stop trying to just say. Why don't you just say? God, it gets me angry. Weirdly enough, these are the only 2 timelines where we've met Thatcher's punk. Before he reprised the role in this new episode of Picard, Kirk also played the same character in Spider-Man Homecoming of all places. How did this happen, we hear you gasp? Well, Marvel's head honcho, Kevin Feige, is a big Star Trek fan, so he asked Thatcher directly if he'd like to jump in quick for a cameo on the last few days of shooting. I arrived in Manhattan around 1:30 in the morning and my call time was 4:30 a.m. the same day, Kirk tells StarTrek.com, so I grabbed a couple of hours sleep, took a taxi to the set and brought my own wardrobe. They made me look like a grungier. They made me look a little grungier, and the whole thing was done by 11:30 that morning, so it was really only about 48 hours from Wednesday afternoon when he asked if I was interested to Friday lunchtime when we had finished shooting the scene. Cool. Well, it's safe to assume that this cameo was just supposed to be a fun nod to Star Trek. Thatcher does hint that the 2 punks are one and the same during said interview. The reason this all happened is that Kevin is a big Star Trek 4 fan, and he has told me that he was a big fan of the punk scene, so I guess it just tickled him to include that character 30 years later. I'm hoping this turns into a long series of punk on the cameos that can fund my early retirement. You got a producer credit on Star Trek 4. I'm sure you're still getting checks for that. Kirk. We know we're reading too much into this. We're fully aware that these 2 punk characters are not actually supposed to be the same person, except what if they are? What if the I Hate You guy actually transcends time and space? Hear us out. Thatcher's punk is the only character who's appeared in both Star Trek and Marvel properties, on screen at least. There have actually been multiple crossovers between the X-Men and different Starfleet officers in comics and books alike, but nothing like this has ever happened on screen, yet. We know that the punk character exists across multiple timelines, and Picard's version seems to be aware of this on an unconscious level at the very least. When you factor that in alongside how Spidey just broke the multiverse in No Way Home, there's more potential... Insect again. There's more potential for the 2 on-screen franchises to cross... Come on, just land and go to sleep. Go on. Oh, whatever. There's more potential for the two franchises to cross over than ever before. In fact, they may already have given Thatcher's role in both. And no, we're not stopping there, because who else is joining the party when Marvel tackles all this multiverse madness in the new Doctor Strange film? Why, Patrick Stewart, of course, who we presume will reprise the role of Professor Xavier. Professor Xavier in an MCU first. I think he still thinks he's playing Professor Xavier in Star Trek Picard. Xavier from Logan. Oh, I'm so old and decrepit. But what if that's not all? What if, in perhaps the most ridiculous crossover of all time, Charles Xavier ends up meeting Jean-Luc Picard in the Doctor Strange sequel? We don't deserve Patrick Stewart ×2, yet here we are thinking about it anyway. Aside from the logistical concerns, we can freely admit that a meeting like this would be extremely random, not to mention unlikely. Although saying that, we wouldn't be surprised if Multiverse of Madness has hidden away at least a few more secrets not yet revealed by the promos. In this theory then, excuse me, the key to Stewart Squared is the Punk, whose existence across these various franchises could somehow bridge the gap when everything falls apart. And what's the point of a Punk if not to rebel? When Wanda breaks the rules, she becomes the enemy, but maybe there's some space for Kirk's Punk to become the hero in all this and make our wildest fanboy dreams come true. That might sound bold, even for Star Trek. But we would have said the same thing about a Rick and Morty crossover with Picard. And look where we are now. Yeah, because it got mentioned. It got mentioned in the last episode, didn't it? Rick and Morty. On with Uber. So, anyway, Star Trek Picard Season 2 airs Thursdays on Paramount Plus in the US and Fridays on Amazon Prime Video in the UK. There you go. Just a bit of fun. It'd be interesting if, like, do like an Easter egg in Doctor Strange. A blink and you'll miss it thing. Right, sticking with Marvel. What's going on with Oscar Isaac's British accent in Moon Knight? I can't tell the difference between my dreams and reality. Sounds a bit like Mick Jagger, doesn't it? But without doing all that as well. Everything you need to know about that heavily discussed accent, right? The new Disney Plus show, Moon Knight, has had people talking non-stop online since it dropped its first trailer, but perhaps not for the reason you'd expect. Rather than people marvelling at the duo of Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke facing off against one another, or Marvel introducing the supernatural into the MCU, everyone has become obsessed with Isaac's rather unique British accent. It feels as though Isaac has channeled his inner Dick Van Dyke. Step in time, it's Mary Poppins. Hamming up every accentual twinge and overemphasising the Britishness present in his voice. It has baffled people across the globe, with memes and confusion arising out of it. Even Isaac himself has poked fun in his trailer reaction, so what exactly is going on with Stephen's accent? According to Isaac himself, the slightly unconvincing accent may be more intentional than we think. Speaking with Empire magazine, Isaac confidently defended his characterisation, stating that there are reasons behind it, and that it's more about where Stephen's from and where he's living now and some of his believed heritage. It's clear that Isaac is playing up the complicated mystery of the series around understanding who the man under the cowl truly is, whether that be Stephen Grant or Mark Spector. As Isaac clarified, it's not an idea of what Brits actually sound like. It was actually the actor himself who came up with the accent experimentation in order to further differentiate Stephen and Mark. According to the showrunner, Jeremy Slater, in the initial script, the difference between Stephen and Mark was in attitude. It was Oscar who said, "What about accent? An accent." There's clearly a method to Isaac's accentual madness, as director Mohammed Diab reaffirmed that anything Oscar does is deliberate. So it appears that there is more to Stephen's hyper-cockney tones than meets the ear. but how accurate is the voice to actual British accents? We asked experts from the language learning and analysis platform Babbel to get a deeper understanding of Isaac's characterisation. In-house expert Ted Mentelli, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, commented, "In recent years, portrayals of British accents on screen have been dominated by received pronunciation, RP, which is often the world's idea of the perfect British accent, despite it being a non-regionalised accent." Yeah, I mean, I don't have an accent, me. It seems that in an effort to provide a more complicated, detailed performance, Isaac has adopted a softer, southern regional accent. Think neutral tones native to those from London or the South East. As a result, the imperfections, as Mentelli calls them, or is it Mentel? I don't know, calls them, are what viewers have scrutinised Isaac for. But from this language expert's perspective, although exaggerated, Isaac's interpretation is broadly accurate for this region. Should have got Sean Bean in. He'd have done it right, wouldn't he? A moon night, you bastard. That's what he said. It's clear that nothing is as it seems in Moon Knight and shouldn't be taken at face value, especially Mark and Stephen. According to Mentel, Stephen's personality hinges on a Mockney accent. Often you can spot a Mockney accent by its skipping of T's, like turning water into a two-syllable water. That's not what we say in Yorkshire. We drop as T's sometimes. But we don't call it water, we call it watter. Sometimes we say watter. It depends what mood we're in. And elongating certain vowels, specifically A and E, both of which are noticeable in Isaac's delivery in the teaser trailers alone. Given that Stephen and Mark are somewhat polar opposites, bipolar, it's unsurprising that the identity of Stephen may over-exaggerate their Britishness as a further separation from the Chicago-originated Mark, thereby giving rise to the Mockney accent that Mentel mentions. Given Mark and Stephen's erratic relationship, it makes sense that the last thing Stephen's voice would be is perfect, and Isaac appears to have folded this into a separation of the two. It's clear that Isaac has thought long and hard about how best to approach both Stephen and Mark using acting skills that at first glance may have been written off as bad, but just like any great mystery, that's only one piece of the puzzle. There we go, that's it. It's on 30th of March on Disney+. It's not far. What is it today? 26, only 4 days off. Well, 3 days really now. Pretty much. But yeah, his accent's not too bad. I know I take Mickey and stuff, but it's not too bad. It's a better accent than I could have done, I must admit. But he's a professional and gets paid the big bucks, whereas I don't get paid sod all. So there you go. Still think should have had Sean Bean. Stephen's list time now. Steven Spielberg, the best sci-fi movies from the legendary director. Yeah, we'll just go straight into the list, shall we? Lost World, Jurassic Park. It's not a very good film, is it? Is this just a list of all his science fiction films? Trying to remember now. We'll see when we get to the bottom, won't we? If we can think of any other science fiction films he's done, we'll have a think about it. Anyway, number 8, Lost World, Jurassic Park. It's alright. Other than the Indiana Jones franchise, Spielberg has often avoided sequels, but in 1997 returned to one of his biggest franchises with The Lost World, Jurassic Park. Set 4 years after the events of the first film, Ian Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum goes to Isla Sorna, they've said Sorna, the second island John Hammond used to breed dinosaurs, to rescue Dr. Sarah Harding, Julianne Moore, while also dealing with InGen coming to the island with the attempt to bring the dinosaurs back to the mainland. The film has great action sequences near the end that shows the fun of having a T-Rex interacting with the modern world in what has become an iconic moment in cinema. Yet, as good as the movie is, it often feels to be reiterating the original without really adding much more. The biggest thing working against The Lost World is that it is a sequel to one of Spielberg's greatest films, and while that is not fair to the individual movie itself, it was always destined to live in its predecessor's shadow. Yeah, it's alright, it's not brilliant though. Number 7, Ready Player One. This should have been at bottom of the list, to be honest. Ready Player One was a notable, if not slightly contentious book when it was first published. The novel was filled with pop culture references and callbacks, but also many have raised concerns about the novel's inflation of knowledge over pop culture gives one power and opened a conversation of gatekeeping. The story is set in 2045 and involves Wade Wyatt's Ty Sheridan, a young man who, like the rest of the world, spends a lot of time in the virtual world of Oasis and enters a contest in order to control the Oasis against an evil corporation who wants to profit off of it. At the moment, it's called Meta, isn't it? The Metaverse. That's what they're trying to make it into. The film adaptation fixes some issues with the novel, as it is a visual medium that can show references instead of having to write them all out, and also dives deep into the Willy Wonka outline, with the trailer even using a cover of Pure Imagination, which is a song in the Willy Wonka film. What's his bloody name now? The Gene Wilder version, not the Johnny Depp one. While Ready Player One might not be his best film, even just an above-average movie from Spielberg is still often much better than a lot of other filmmakers' work, and there likely would not have been a better film version than this. But it still should have been at number 8. Lost World Jurassic Park's better than Ready Player One. War of the Worlds, this should have been at number 7. Released in 2005, War of the Worlds is an adaptation of the classic H.G. Wells story of the same name about Martians who come to Earth to conquer and destroy, except they don't call them Martians in this one, do they? While the 1953 film was a parable for the fear of the Cold War, Spielberg's version became a parallel for the fear America was dealing with in the wake of September 11th. The film uses quite a bit of 9/11 imagery, from the destruction leaving individuals covered in ash to the panic of the everyday person on the ground who has no idea what is happening or why. The film has a great start but loses a bit of momentum in the third act when Tim Robbins' character enters the story, an aspect of the book that likely needed to be reworked in the film adaptation. The film was a sharp departure from other Spielberg films, which tended to showcase aliens not as evil invaders but curious beings who came in peace. The brutality of the scary extraterrestrial monsters makes for an interesting piece of Spielberg's filmography. Yeah, it was actually made quite quickly, I think. I'm sure I read somewhere that I think they're going to do the Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and there was some sort of delay. I can't remember what it was, and so it was delayed for like a few years. So in between, while there was this delay going on, he made this. He made this in pretty quick, and it's okay. I don't mind it, but it's it's not his best film. It should have been number 7. As I said, Lost World Jurassic Park's better than War of the Worlds. Close Encounters of the Third Kind at number 5, I don't think so. In my opinion, this should be at number 1 of his sci-fi films. Close Encounters of the Third Kind is a very special film for Spielberg. It was the first movie where he wrote the script himself. He would later go on to write AI Artificial Intelligence and The Fabelmans in theatres this Thanksgiving, and was a long-held passion project for the filmmaker. The film is about humanity's attempts at first contact with alien life, seen through the eyes of blue-collar man Roy Neary, Richard Dreyfuss, whose pursuit of the aliens begins taking over his life. The movie was a massive success when it was released and was nominated for multiple Academy Awards, and in 2007 was selected by the United States Library of Congress and selected for preservation in the National Film Registry. It is often regarded as one of the best sci-fi movies of all time and has influenced countless other films. Interestingly, Spielberg says there are elements he would change about it, as he is now a father himself. He would not have the lead character leave his family behind for aliens. Despite his feelings about the ending, Close Encounters of the Third Kind remains a marvel to behold. Yeah, but that's the point, isn't it? I know it said he might do it differently, because he's a father himself now, but the point, and he didn't know at the time, about having a family and all that, when he wrote it. But that was the point of the film, wasn't it? The characters, the aliens basically implanted a vision in his head that he couldn't get out, and it was so insidious in his brain. I mean, they're talking about these aliens that are good aliens, but are they really? You know, they're going around kidnapping people and stuff, are they? That anyway, this implanted vision so worms its way into his brain that it basically goes crazy. His family leave him. He don't leave his family leave him, because he's been driven around the bend. And so he's got to go and try and sort it out. And the only way he thinks he can sort it out is to go to Devil's Tower. But he ends up going with the aliens. I'm sure he comes back at some point, and maybe he's reunited with Ronnie, and he's all okay, and he sees his kids, and he's a better person for it. But that don't happen in the film, and there was never a sequel. Minority Report. This should be low down here. This should be low down here, above Ready Player One, and maybe above War of the Worlds. No, below War of the Worlds, because it wasn't that good. It was interesting, and it shouldn't be at number 4. Loosely based on the short story by Philip K. Dick, Minority Report is set in the 2054 when a special division of the police department known as Pre-Crime apprehends criminals based on foreknowledge provided by 3 psychics called Precogs. At the centre of the story is John Anderton, Tom Cruise, the Pre-Crime commanding officer who finds himself on the run when he uncovers a conspiracy about the programming that then shows him committing a murder he will be arrested for. Minority Report is both a non-stop action film but also a meditative neo-noir thriller. It tackles issues of free will versus determinism. And while the film's theme of exploring a government protecting civilians at any cost, regardless of ethical implications at the time, was in response to the 9/11 terrorist attacks and the war on terror. The themes and messages remain relevant to an audience today as these conversations about government surveillance continue. Layering complex themes and intricate plot into a blockbuster film is a tricky act. But Spielberg does it with such ease. Yeah, it's a good film, but I still don't think it's one of his best. I honestly don't. And I didn't like the ending. Anyway, artificial intelligence is another one that should be way down. I love artificial intelligence, but I don't think it's among his best. It's at number 3 for them. Who is it? MovieWeb. AI artificial intelligence tells the story of David, and it makes me cry. Of David Haley Joel Osment. He should have won an Oscar for this, by the way. A childlike android uniquely programmed with the ability to love. Like Ready Player One dug deep into the Willy Wonka comparison, AI uses references to Pinocchio, literally in the text of the film, as David believes a blue fairy can make him a real boy. The movie was originally set to be directed by the late great Stanley Kubrick, but he believed no child actor could pull off the role and handed the film off to Spielberg in 1995. The project gained traction following Kubrick's death in 1999. Spielberg wanted to make a tribute to his friend. Spielberg stuck very close to the film Kubrick wanted to make, and the ending, which is often attributed to Spielberg as being more his style of sentimentality, was actually from Kubrick, showcasing another side to the filmmaker. Originally dismissed at the time of its release for being too sentimental, AI has grown in estimation among many as both a love letter to Kubrick and a rare insight into a film that might have been, and showing a darker side to Spielberg that would go on to define much of the director's 21st century post-9/11 work. The movie is incredibly dark, often disturbing, and an emotional gut punch that brings the audience through the journey of a young boy, well, there's a robot in it, and asks questions of love and what defines a soul. Even the ending has a hint of sadness to it, and makes it one of Spielberg's darkest and possibly his most underrated film that gets better with time. Yeah, it is a really good film, but I won't put it at number 3. Jurassic Park at number 2. Yeah, that'd be number 2 for me, but Close Encounters would be number 1. Yeah, I'd have that at number 4. Artificial Intelligence at number 4. Yeah, Jurassic Park is amazing. Jurassic Park is one of the most groundbreaking movies of all time, an icon of cinema, where people the world over know it. The basic premise of a theme park where dinosaurs were brought to life was an instant hit with audiences, and for a time Jurassic Park was the highest grossing movie of all time. It shattered expectations and is a testament to movie magic. The film showcases Spielberg at his best, perfectly mixing the childlike wonder and awe of seeing a dinosaur in the modern day, but also shifting tones midway through the film to the terror of what happens when these animals are let through. The visual effects still work after all these years and remain a marvel to behold, but what has made Jurassic Park endure so much over the generations and keeps bringing people back is the characters, so much that part of the appeal behind Jurassic World Dominion is uniting the original 3 characters for the first time since 1993. Yeah, it's an amazing film. It still stands up. The effects are still great. The CG still holds up. I mean, that screen grab doesn't actually hold up, but if you see it moving, when you watch it moving, it still holds up. Yeah, and it's great. And the animatronics by the late great Stan Winston are amazing. Much better than what you see these days, I must admit. In films like the new Star Wars films, I find all the animatronic creatures in the new Star Wars films, the new Star Trek films as well, leave a lot to be desired. I don't think modern, and they're better than I could, but it's their job, innit? They're not as good as they used to be. I'm sorry, I must be getting old. I'm that old Yorkshire geek, and things aren't as good as they used to be. Anyway, number 1, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. No, I'd have this at probably about number 4, to be honest. I do like it. I went to see it pictures when I were younger. I wasn't that young. How old were I when it came out? 1982 when this came out. 15. I actually wanted to go see Poltergeist. I know I wasn't old enough to, but, you know, we could have got in to see Poltergeist. Actually, Poltergeist I might have just been old enough to see Poltergeist. I'm not sure if it were an X certificate or a double A at the time. You need to be 14 to see a double A. Can't remember. But my mate wanted to go see E.T., so we went to see E.T. Anyway, E.T. the Extraterrestrial is one of the most iconic films in the world, with the image of Elliot and E.T. flying across the moon almost a universal shorthand for movie magic. The image was used as the logo for Spielberg's company Ambient, which just signed a multi-movie deal with Netflix. Projects like... I didn't even know Ambient was still going. But then I saw... What did I see it on now? I've seen it on something recently. Oh, I can't remember. Oh, Halo. Yeah, it's one of the production companies behind this new Halo series. Yeah, Ambient. I was surprised. Projects like Stranger Things, Super 8, Goonies and more all trace their influence back to E.T. The simple story of a young boy finding a lost and scared alien and forming a friendship is both a simple story, but one that is rooted in such a deeply personal place for Spielberg. Divorce and broken families have often been at the centre of many Spielberg movies, and Elliot in many ways is a Steven Spielberg stand-in, a young man who cares for his younger sister after their parents' divorce and a kid who is caught up in this amazing world. Even the idea of E.T. as a friendly alien, in contrast to many other aliens on film, speaks to Spielberg's optimism and humanistic view of the world and others. It could be said that E.T. is the director's quintessential movie, one of Spielberg's best of all time. Well, one of, but... When E.T. opened, it was a massive hit and even overtook Star Wars to become the highest grossing movie, a record the film would hold until Spielberg topped it with Jurassic Park. It received multiple award nominations, is often regarded as not only one of the best sci-fi movies, but best movies period, and even today, after all these years, is an entertaining, sweet and heartfelt story that can be enjoyed among families. Yeah, it's a great film, but I still don't think it's his best. And I think a lot of the, as he often does in a lot of different films, one of the things that enhances the film is John Williams' score. Without that score, it wouldn't be as good. But then again, it's that about all John Williams' films, can't you? Jurassic Park. What other one? I don't know if he did them. I don't know. I know he did Close Encounters, Jaws. So there you go. That's Steven Spielberg's sci-fi films. Has he done any more? Could Jaws be classed as a sci-fi film? I don't know. It's a monster film, isn't it? A creature feature. What else has he done? Well, Schindler's List in sci-fi, is it? What's the... Always. It's not really sci-fi. It's more of a romantic, supernatural, dramedy, I suppose. Yeah, whatever. Right, science. Now we'll leave it there. Now we what? Super Earth discovered near one of our galaxy's oldest stars. I wasn't going to bother reading this because I couldn't be bothered. I'm going to have to move this over now, I think, aren't I? Yes, I am. There we go. A hot, rocky super Earth near one of the oldest stars in the galaxy has taken a team of planet-hunting scientists by surprise. The planet is about 50% larger than Earth but requires less than half a day to orbit its star. For every day you're on Earth, this planet orbits its star twice, said UC Riverside Planetary astrophysicist and team member Stephen Kane. Part of the reason for the short orbit is the planet's proximity to its star, which also creates incredible heat. Its estimated average surface temperature is over 2,000 degrees Kelvin. Now, you just said 2,000 Kelvin, you don't say 2,000 degrees Kelvin. Much too toasty to host life as we know it, though it may once have been possible. In addition, Kane said that although the planet has roughly 3 times the mass of Earth, the team calculated its density to be the same as our planet. This is surprising because you'd expect the density to be higher, Kane said. Well, if it's made out of the same sort of stuff, it'll be similar density, won't it? This is consistent with the notion that the planet is extremely old. The older a planet is, the less dense it's likely to be, because not as many heavy elements were available when it formed, explained Kane. Heavy elements are produced by fusion reactions in stars as they age. Eventually stars explode, dispersing these elements, from which new stars and planets will form. Discovery of planet TOI 561b and additional observations the team made about its composition. Can you see all that? I'll move it a bit more. There you go. Have been accepted for publication in the Astronomical Journal and are being presented. Hang on. January 11th. This is an old one. Oh, it's from last year. Well, why did it appear in my new news? Oh. Anyway, it's still interesting. So, it's this old planet. Where does it say about its age? Yeah, TOI 561b is one of the oldest rocky planets yet discovered, said University of Hawaii postdoctoral fellow and team lead Lauren Weiss. Its existence shows that the universe has been forming rocky planets almost since its inception 14 billion years ago. So there you go. So it's 14 billion, well, not nearly 14 billion years old. Yeah, so we'll leave it there. So there you go. They're finding new stuff every day, aren't they? What will they think of next? Right, that's your lot. I've had enough. Been going over an hour and a half. Bloody hell. Talking to myself for an hour and a half, and I'm hungry now. My lad wants some chicken in him, he says. Right, so we'll leave it there. So until tomorrow, wherever you are in the world, be nice to each other, help each other out when you can, and don't forget, wrong side, here, there, beep, like and subscribe, and share the videos and drop a comment, and until tomorrow, we'll have some more news for you, fingers crossed. Oh, bang, I'll see thee. Where's the end